Lisa Parenteau, and I'd like to welcome you to Lifting Others as We Rise, the podcast where we dive into the world of real estate and the power of positive thinking. In each episode, we're going to bring you inspiring conversations with real estate professionals and other thought leaders who have really harnessed the power of lifting others up along their journeys. So let's get ready to elevate our mindset. Lifting Others as We Rise podcast, where inspiration is a catalyst for action. Let's go. Welcome to Lifting Others as We Rise podcast. I am Lisa Parenteau, your host, realtor, team leader, CRS, broker associate, luxury realtor, but most importantly, proud grandma to my 3 granddaughters and counting, Eloise Ann, who's 5.5, baby Hazel, who's about 11 months, and brand new baby Navy Grace, who was born on June 2nd. So that is really, the heart and soul right now of our lives, as well as, of course, being realtors. But my mission in this episode, as always, as you know, listener, is to uncover and to kind of talk about and get into the weeds of inspiration and pivotal moments and really transformational events that have happened in the lives of the realtors that we talk to. And we do talk to realtors across the country. I've actually had a couple of my guests have been out of the country, top producing realtors, usually luxury realtors, as today's guest is as well. But we will try to not talk about real estate. It's not always as easy as it sounds, but I really believe you'll walk away with some actionable things from our conversation and some things to think about in your own life that maybe can make a difference for you. Today, my incredible guest is Matias Baker Masucci. Hopefully I pronounced that properly. I can't wait to
You
hear
did.
his story. And he can also pronounce his name with a beautiful Italian lyric accent. Welcome, Matias.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, Lisa. Thank you for having me. And congrats on the new granddaughter. That's fantastic.
Yeah,
That's very exciting. As a father of 4 little kids, all under the age of 9, I can tell you that there's such a blessing to have little ones around. So I know that they say grandparents, they get the best thing, right? They get to
it
spend
is.
time with the kids, and then when they're done, they're like, bye. So
It is. But I think it's also, the truth is, we're just talking about this. The truth is that you also have lived a life and you don't have
right.
those same parental concerns. You're able to take that 5 seconds. And the kids typically tend to listen to you a little more closely than they
Right.
do their parents. At least that's been our experience. So that's kind of interesting as well. But let me introduce you. I've got a canned kind of a bio, but I know that we'll be expanding that a little bit, and I can't wait to hear more about you and your life and your family, as well as kind of some things that have really motivated and moved you in your life. So Matias is based in LA, and actually he just said that he's in Beverly Hills. So whatever, we'll talk about that in a moment. With roots in Italy and a passion for real estate that actually started in 2004. So Matias has been in the profession for quite a while. He specializes in luxury properties and also probate and trust sales, which actually we have an awful lot of here on Cape Cod as well, and investing, of course. He currently is a broker with Berkshire Hathaway, and he is dedicated to continuing to deliver his exceptional service to his clients. He takes pride in helping clients achieve their goals, of course, while minimizing risk and maximizing values, which sounds a lot like very good negotiation and strategy. So we appreciate that. So again, welcome, 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 Matias. I'm so glad to have you as a guest today.
Of course. Thank you. It's so good to be here. You have great energy. I love your
Oh,
smile. Your smile comes through.
well, thank
I
you.
love it.
Thank you so much. I hope our listeners can hear that. As you know, we do have the YouTube video, but we all, obviously we're going to be, in a podcast format.
You
So,
know, you can feel the smile, right? When you pick up the phone,
yeah,
even if you're just talking on the phone, if you have a big smile, the person on the other end, so it comes through in the voice, it will come through in the audio for sure.
yeah. Thank you. So let's talk a little bit. One of the first questions that I often have for people, and it kind of tells me a little bit about, what where they have found some of those voices that have guided them. Share with us, Matthias, one or two of your very early mentors, someone that, and it can be someone alive or it could be someone, for me, Tony Robbins is a huge mentor for in many, many ways, and so like it can be anyone, but tell me a little bit about who you would consider an early mentor for you.
Okay, so an early mentor, I would have to say that was probably my father
Okay.
that played, he always had a passion for philosophy. My father is a very interesting character. He would burst into the kitchen when we were kids, reciting Dante's Divine Comedy, Inferno. Like he would do things like that. He had a passion. He's eccentric. And I think that he was the first person who made knowledge cool. Like
Mm.
he had that, like he would talk about Plato and the dialogues and Socrates and this and that, but in a way that he was not dogmatic. He was always like, and he would love to talk about obscure philosophers that nobody knows, like, and I always thought that was fun. He would do it in a funny way. And I think, and another thing that he always had, which was a great gift that he gave me, is never to take oneself too seriously. So he joked about it. He's a self-educated man. He grew up in a tiny town in the south of Italy, which is very rural. They didn't even have electricity. I mean, he's not that old.
Wow.
He was born in the 50s, but they were like so isolated that, where he grew up. So you might as well have grown up in the 19th century America. So, and he has all these great stories. So he was an early mentor. Obviously, then I think I rejected a lot of it's normal for a child as you
Yeah.
grow older. As I became a young adult, I was like, he doesn't know what he's talking about and all of that stuff. I'm very much, but if I have to identify somebody as an early mentor, I would have to pick my dad.
Yeah, yeah. And so you talked about kind of the gift that he gave you was to not take yourself too seriously. That's something I like to think about. Like, what are these gifts that we've
Oh my
picked
God.
up from our mentors? And I just love that. He also sounds like he was a real storyteller.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So two things my that I can pinpoint that I am very thankful that my mom and my dad taught me, amongst other things. One is not to take yourself too seriously, and
Mhm.
number two is that zero prejudice. I grew up in an environment where I never heard them say anything about the difference. Like, don't get me wrong, plenty of gossip in Italy, but I never heard them to to judge a person
Mm,
by race, sexual orientation. I mean, you name it, like whatever it did not exist in my family, and I'm so blessed for that
that
because,
is a gift.
yeah, for sure. So those are the two things that I identify as great gifts that my parents
Yeah,
gave
yeah. So
gave
let me
me.
pull that thread a little bit more in terms of the don't take yourself too seriously. How has that served you as you've moved through your life?
It has served me, I guess, because I take pause sometimes when I get too deep into something or something bothers me, and there's always that little ability to laugh about it, even things that are grave and serious. I'm going to say a story. Maybe I'm going to get in trouble for saying this story for my
That's
parents. They,
okay.
they don't want to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. It was my grandfather had just passed away. And I mean, literally just passed away, and people, relatives came to the house, to say, oh, sorry, whatever, this and that. It wasn't the service or anything, but it was that, and I remember this friend of my dad, very Sicilian, very like, like my grandfather was from Sicily, so this person was very serious, very grave. So he came in and was like, sorry, sorry, and my mom looked at him, and because he was so serious, she just burst out laughing. And then obviously my aunt burst out laughing. And then my dad burst out laughing. And I was this scene, and this gentleman, which was trying to be obsequious and he was just like, and then we were like, look, you can laugh with us. It's okay. Like, don't take it so serious. And I thought, in the face of death,
Mm.
when you can be like that in the face of death, and that doesn't mean that, we loved my grandpa so much and all of that, but it was all taken like, like there was plenty of jokes and things that we talked about. And to this day, the difficult moments that, whenever things look like, oh my God, it's so terrible, I always go back to the fact that it was like, you know what? It's not that big of a deal. It doesn't matter what it is, it's like, it doesn't matter what it is. So that ability not to take myself too seriously definitely comes from plenty of moments that I've experienced in my life. And my wife has that too. So, which is great, I think.
Well, it also, another way of saying that or looking at it, and an amazing character trait that we can continue to develop as adults is kind of wearing those things as loose clothing, right? Like
Yeah,
wearing whatever is going on. It's funny. I was looking at your Facebook and I saw you do one piece was like, it's not the market, it's your marketing. Like being able to,
absolutely.
absolutely take like kind of whatever is going on and not let it, not let that define you, to wear it all like loose clothing and to just kind of be not detached, but it's that over attachment, right? That makes us so rigid, that makes us
Yeah.
dig in our heels, and that makes it impossible to listen to the other,
Yeah.
right?
I want to share a quote that actually, it was kind of life changing for me to listen to this
Hmm.
quote a few years ago. It randomly came to me. It's so simple and actually kind of silly, but it says, just because things could have gone differently, it does not mean they would have gone better.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
that thing, I was like, wait a minute, like absolutely, because you can always say like, oh, I lost that client. Can't believe I didn't get that listing. That was, or I can't believe that this didn't happen in my life. But it's like just because they could have gone differently, it doesn't mean it would have been better. So I know it's kind of like a defense mechanism, but I always think like, hey, maybe that client would have ended up in a lawsuit, or who knows, or there was something wrong with the property, or this and that, or that buyer. So just because, and in our business, Lisa, this, we have to develop a thick skin because everything is in our face. So like homes are tangible assets that are out there. So if you don't get a listing, you drive by and you see another realtor sign. In other businesses, it doesn't happen. It's not right in your face where it says, hey, you didn't get it. And then that person doesn't sell it and it expires and they still hire somebody else. And like, I remember this quote that another mentor of mine told me. He said, you want to be the firstborn, the second spouse,
Yeah.
and the
And the
third
third
agent.
realtor, the
Have
third,
you heard about that?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So, that one. So there you go. We have to, like be able to deal with the business and personal losses in a way that it doesn't destroy the mood, it doesn't impact those around us. I think that's important.
And being able to put into perspective, Tony Robbins, as I would, am often to quote, has a great quote that's, and others have also said the same thing, but to be able to experience the world as things happening for me and not to me, right? So
Right.
it's that same, by not getting that client, this other amazing client. And I know you've probably said that to people as they're on their real estate search, I know we lost that one. And yet, and how many times has that happened? And they go, "Oh my God, I'm so glad I didn't buy that other one." It
Right.
just it does. If you're willing to trust, like that's a big step.
Totally.
Tell me a little bit about some challenges. A lot of times, one of the things I find, specifically in talking to realtors across the country, is that they have a level of resilience that is absolutely magnificent. And we're a little different. Salespeople, I think, in general, have more resilience maybe than the average folk, but I feel like realtors really, because not only are we in a sales environment, we're also subject to a lot of other external environmental forces in terms of
Right.
the market and the political climate and the financial climate and so many other things. So tell me about a challenge that kind of helped you become more resilient and determined that you were in the right place at the right time.
I think that there's been a lot of challenges in my life that I had to overcome, but when I try to pin I think that a major switch, so let me see, like let me arrive at it from a slight different angle.
Mhm.
So the switch that happens for me, what really changed was the fact that I used to take business losses or challenges in a way that like I didn't have time to reflect on them.
Mhm.
And when I started, I think in 2019 was I started practicing transcendental meditation as a result of reading Principles by Ray Dalio, the book. I had heard about it before from the Beatles practice it and other people, and I was like, this is like hocus pocus. I'm not interested in it. But when somebody who's in finance talks about it, I was like, okay, well, let me take the course and just go in as eyes wide open, and I just started practicing without thinking about it, without thinking about what meditation is and any of that stuff. And it gave me the opportunity to pause when something happens, reflect, and then recharge, and then deal with the challenge. Before, I was a lot more impulsive. So something happened and I would respond right away. And the response was not necessarily ideal. So I think since 2019, so over the past, 6 years, I have developed a delay in the response time, which serves me well. So those challenges, which before may have been like so hard on me, and I just refuse to look at them and I move on to something else. Now I can look at them and I can say, okay, there is something here for me to learn. There's a lesson. I take away a lot of lessons. I think I learned this from somebody about that, if you make a mistake, the actual mistake is not learning anything from it.
Yeah, I love that.
Because if you learn something from it, then it's really not a mistake. It's just a challenge that you have to overcome. So that's kind of been my mindset. Having said that, believe me, there's plenty of time when I find things to be challenging, et cetera, et cetera. But having said that, equanimity is there's a lot more of that in my life now than there used to be before. I don't know if it's the package of being an Italian, passionate, but I used to, my moods used to be a lot more like this. And now they're a lot more like this, which it takes, my fuse is a lot longer. I think my children have also taught me a lot because, having 4 small children, they can get very loud, they fight, they do all these things. And they can be super lovely and everything, but they're loud, they're sticky, they're obnoxious, you name it. And being around them, sometimes you just gotta be like, especially, when you go to public places. We just went on a little vacation, and, sometimes my boy and my girl, the middle ones, they fight so much. And you're like, and my parents were there, and my dad would be like, oh my God, what's going on? I was like, don't worry about it. It'll be over in 2 minutes. Just, let them run the gamut of emotion, and then it'll be over. And that, I can assure you, I didn't have 6 years ago.
I just
would have
love
just
that,
panicked.
Yeah. So you have a meditation practice now. Maybe I'll dig a little bit into that.
I do it twice a day, every
so you
day,
have twice
20
a day.
minutes.
And I love the fact that you mentioned equanimity, which is a word that I just love. It was actually going to be my word of the year about 2 years ago. And there's so much in that word about no matter what, being able to be in the present moment and to continue that kind of homeostasis, that we can be in balance, especially when we learn more about the things that make us react, which you had mentioned, not being able to act now instead of just reacting, which had been partially from your family of origin and maybe partially just from your wiring in life.
Right.
But glad you found this out as your children are small and not as a grandparent. Some of us didn't come to this until we were grandparents, not parents. So kudos to you for your meditation practice. And tell me a little bit. So what does that morning look like for you, Matias?
Usually I wake up around between 4:30 and like 5 o'clock every day. And then, I take a few moments just to kind of like wake up. Never use an alarm, never have, and I hopefully never will have to. I wake up naturally because I go to bed early because we put the kids to bed at around 8:30 p.m. So we start their bedtime routine starts at 8 p.m. By 9 p.m. everybody's in bed. So, like I go to bed pretty early. So around, 4:30, 5 o'clock, I wake up, get out of bed, sit on my meditation chair, which is an advice. If anybody's interested in meditation, I know it sounds very silly, but build a little space where you do it.
Absolutely.
Because I didn't know that until like 1 or 2 years I was doing it, that I was like, you need a little space because that reminds you to do it. It's like the power of habits. You have like, like healthy food in the front or whatever you use to mind hack yourself so that you make the good choice. So I have the meditation chair. I move to the meditation chair. It takes about 20 minutes. Then I go to the kitchen, everything is quiet, everybody's still asleep. I have until 6:30, nobody in my house wakes up. Make myself tea now. Started that maybe like a year ago. I don't drink coffee. I never drank coffee. I'm one of the few Italians in the world
Yeah, yeah.
that doesn't drink coffee. So I make myself tea, enjoy my tea whether I do it outside or inside, and that time is for me. And then usually, like around 6:45, I wake everybody, I wake the kids up, start getting them ready for school. That's a whole project over there in and of itself. So, but that's kind of like
With
and
four of
then,
them, mercy. That's more than a
yeah,
project, my sir. That's
yeah.
a
And
lot.
then in the
That's a lot.
evening, I meditate around 4:20,
Okay.
4:30. I pick up the kids from school at 5. So I, meditate right before I pick them up from school, and then I pick them up from school.
So what I love about what I'm hearing is you have determined a time for this practice that has transformed your life.
Right,
It's non-negotiable. And it works into your schedule so you don't have an excuse to yourself about why
right.
you can't do those things.
Yeah,
There is nobody who's asking you to do anything to do with real estate at 4:30 or 5 in the morning, hopefully.
right.
And no one also that, that you have to go pick up your kids. So you've left yourself a little bit of a cushion there to be able to do your meditation and then
Yeah,
go and do the family responsibility. So it's consistency, it's prioritizing, it is scheduling, and also the fact that it's non-negotiable.
right.
Those are all really powerful concepts.
Yes. And another thing, I use alarms in my not to wake up, as I said, but I use alarms on my phones during the day to remind me of specific things, not that I have to do, but states that I should be
I
in
was gonna say, oh,
mind-wise.
okay, because I have them all day long for the stuff,
Yeah,
for all
exactly.
kinds of
So
things, but I do it for all
so
kinds of
at,
things.
at like at 2 o'clock, I have an alarm every day that says relentless. Just that's it. It pops up.
Nice.
It says the word relentless. At 9:45 in the morning, I have another alarm with an Italian word on it that reminds me that like I have to be on top of my game to be to serve my clients well. And then I have another one at 3:45 that says unplug. It's a reminder that I need to unplug. Now, maybe my work is not done, but I need to start winding down. So at 3:45, I start winding down, right? So it's all thing, and same thing at 9 a.m. I have another alarm that reminds me, like, check the calendar. So I check the calendar and see like what's the thing. The whole thing, like, I find it very helpful, even on the weekend, because the weekend the schedule is a little different. We have open houses on the weekend, it's a little different. At 5 p.m. on Saturday and Sunday, I have a reminder to meditate, which I don't need during a week because
Mhm. You're picking
it's
up your
built in
kids.
my schedule. It's right before I pick up the kids. But on the weekend, I never know what's going on. Sometimes I'm doing an open house. Sometimes I am, being a scout leader with the kids, so whatever the story may be, I need that on the weekend. So that's just an example of how I try to be effective.
Yeah, yeah, no, I just love that. I mean, I think that, so if and when you find yourself during the day feeling a little bit more chaotic than normal, is there an additional practice, a mantra, some kind of a ritual that helps to anchor and ground you? Just, I love to, ask people that and see if they can
There
share.
is something that I have to say, I'm not very consistent with it, but I have used it. It's like it's a 2 to 3 minute mindfulness exercise that, oh, I wish I could I read it in a book that was about, I think, like marketing or something. It wasn't about that, but the person in the book talked about, oh, repeating the word release. So it's like for like 1 or 2 minutes, release, release. I wish I could read it. It's a very popular book. I listened to it though. So the title doesn't come to me, but it was not The Power of Habits, something like that. Like High Performance Habits, maybe was the book. I think it was High Performance Habits. That was the name of the book. It was in there, and sometimes I use that when I need to focus. But going on a walk, it's also extremely helpful. I just get up and walk around the block. Like my office is in Beverly Hills, so walking around, it's pretty pleasant around here.
Yeah.
The weather is always nice, so I just take a little walk around. And I also have been trying recently to get in some steps.
All right. All right.
So I combine the two. Get
Yeah.
up,
No, and
go
that's
for
so
a walk.
important. I mean, movement in general, it's one of
Yeah,
the main things that we need for our optimal health, and finding the kind
right.
of movement that really suits you and releasing the kind of movement that you are not going to do.
Right.
So many people are like struggling with things that they just hate. Stop it. So find some form of, physical weight bearing, cardiovascular, whatever that looks like. And maybe it's 10 minutes. Maybe it's not 45. That's okay.
Right.
10 minutes 3 times a week is better than complaining and feeling sick and getting, more and more immobile. So I just love that, so much. And depending on, what your wiring is like, some people have a much more difficult time with that. Others of us
Right.
quickly jumping up and running around all the time, we need to keep being reminded to slow down, the opposite,
Right.
exactly the opposite. So let me just ask, is there a piece of advice that you would give your younger self if you had that opportunity today? I'd love to ask people this to see if there are lessons learned that you would share with your younger self.
I think that the most important thing I would tell a 22-year-old Matthias was to really understand the power of humility and
Mm.
humbleness. It took me, it was a very long journey, which is still in progress for me to have that. And I wish I had it. I think I would have been, I mean, again, just because things would have gone differently, it doesn't mean they would have gone better. So I don't want to live with regret. But humility
Mm.
is such an important quality that is overlooked. And if you have that, it really helps a lot. And we are kind of in an environment that's encouraging boastfulness, right? You go on social media and there's a lot of flaunting of wealth, there's a lot of flaunting of experiences, there's a lot of look where I am now at the beach, look at this. And there's nothing wrong with it inherently. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm not saying there is, but if you have a humble spirit and you have that humility, I think it's so much better to live life that way. And I struggle with it every day. There's no doubt about that. I struggle with it every day. Lisa, as realtors, we receive top 100. You just made it. You're top this, you're top that. And you know what? I post it sometimes, but I joke about it. I said, "Hey, mom, look at it." I tell like I'm doing this for my mom in Italy, but nonetheless, I'm doing it because everybody's doing it. The truth of the matter is that I don't feel my clients care that much about if I'm number one in the office or whatever. And it's hard because you see your competition doing it. I'm top 100 in LA County. I'm this and that. And you're like, so I have to help myself. And my broker and real estate brokerages, now I'm going to go into encourage that. And that's not a good thing. Real estate broker want to give you awards, which I don't keep anywhere. I keep them at home. My kids play with them. I don't keep anyone in my office because then you end up in a race. You're like, I gotta be, and I don't know. I don't know. I am I that the fact that real estate brokerages encourage
Yeah.
and award you for
Yeah.
like, hey, you're top this.
In one way, though, spinning off of kind of what you said initially, that continuing to learn the humility for ourselves, I think having a servant's heart and continuing to know that what we do is actually service, that we are in a service business. You and I are lucky in that we're serving relatively wealthy clients. And so, that tends to be a little bit easier, but it might be easier to let the brokerage do that versus you doing that, right? All I
Right.
kept thinking when you were saying that is at EXP, we get stock. So that's kind of good. We don't get awards and paper. We do, we get little things for Icon Agent, but mostly we just get stock. But still there is the top list and that goes on constantly, of course, because the outside world, that's a metrics that Wall Street's looking at. That's a metrics that I don't. So I guess besides Wall Street and like Inman, trying to think of who really does look at those metrics. And maybe a few very high D clients,
Yeah,
right?
I mean, Real Trends, the Wall Street Journal, Tom
Of
Ferry
course.
Coaching, they all have like their ranking and this, and I don't know. You know what? I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but it seems
I get
the
your point though.
important thing is don't
Absolutely.
let it get to your head, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And don't let
Don't.
that be, you don't let that let you forget the fact that we are in a service industry. And for those of us that are working with luxury buyers and sellers all the time, there is nothing like the occasional first time home buyer to really
Right.
remind you what the heck we're doing here.
Yeah.
those folks that have never done this before, and every little thing. Look at this cabinet pull. I think about when we bought this first home, there were these. I thought they were so fabulous. They were like, I don't know if they were plastic or glass transparent things on the end of the faucets. And I was saying to my mother, "Oh, look at these." And I laugh to myself now with my bazillion-dollar per, knob in my renovated kitchen, right? But like back then, the twinkle of every little thing, and God bless. I think it's so great that if we can all have occasional first-time home buyers woven into our tapestry, because
Absolutely.
that's where
I
it
am
was.
price agnostic. I just happen to sell, some luxury because, that's the market that I'm
Of
in.
course,
But I sell, like for me, it's about the clients, especially
we all do.
you may have experienced this, Lisa, as well. But, some of the high-end clients you work with end up buying properties for their children,
Mhm.
and their children don't start with a $10 million home, So, you end up working with the children to help them, which are adult children in their 20s who now are getting help buying their first home. And I love to do that. I love to help, my clients, kids purchase their home. So that's just an example of how we end up with a lot of first-time home buyers. In fact, last year, I had like 3 of my clients purchase homes for their kids,
Nice.
which is very telling, I think, of where the market is and how things are right now for
Yeah,
first-time home
well, I
buyers.
think they have the means to help them. They also want them to get the heck out of their basement. At least that's what's been.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I
Exactly.
have a colleague, Gianna, who says big or small, we sell them all. So I
Hey, I
think we
love
all
that.
kind of,
Yeah.
yeah, we all kind of are in that space. So as we wrap up today, Matias, and this just been such a thrill to share some time with you today. I have a question that I do love to pose to my guests, and that is, share with us the most uplifting compliment you've ever received, and also why it was so uplifting for you.
Oh God, I need to think about that. I hate giving you some dead air, but
Okay.
it's a good question. Uplifting compliment. Let me think. Something that is, I guess I'm trying to go to something that is recent, but I
Something
don't
that
know. I guess
inspired that inspired you, that
yeah.
it
So
was.
something that someone told me
Yes,
about me, their
yes.
opinion of me.
For your service, or something about something you had done. Just a really uplifting compliment.
Yeah. I've I'm I've had some very nice clients review, like really lovely ones where I'm looking at them, I was like, wow, really? Like you have this opinion of me that's very high. But something recently, I guess I was on the phone with somebody, and there's somebody I do business with. It's real estate. They're investors though, so it's the relationship is a little bit different. And I was talking about an investment with them, and then he paused and he was like, why not you? And I was like, what do you mean? He was like, why not you? And I was like, you mean like, I'm saying, why not you? Why can you not get this and this that you're talking about? And I was like, oh, interesting. He was like, do you think the other guy, even though there wasn't a person that we were talking about, he said, do you think the other person is smarter? Do you think they deserve it more? What do
Mm,
you think? And he was like, why not you? When I look at you, he said, I think you, that person that, that should make that move that you're advising, that person to make. And I was like, oh, interesting. So I guess that was a compliment. It was a kind of tough love, but it felt good because I was like, oh, that's how you see me. You see me as the power player, the rainmaker. It's funny because I don't see myself as that. I see myself as, like the advisor, etc. But he was like, no, you should, this is an investment for you. You shouldn't like, and I was like, oh, okay, interesting. So I guess this is the most recent thing that I can think of. That was flattering in a sense that he was like, you are the rainmaker, you are the powerful guy, not stop pretending not to be that
yeah,
person.
yeah, yeah.
So I guess that
Don't
that
play
was an
small,
interesting.
right? The idea,
Yeah,
I was thinking about that as you were describing that. He had a belief in you. I assume that you respected him the way that you even brought him up. So who you really respected had a belief in you, and he told you to not play small. That's big stuff.
yeah,
Nice.
yeah,
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 that's
yeah.
really nice. Thank you so much, Matthias. This has been just such a pleasure. I so very often find that our conversations go into one of a spirituality, and it's very interesting. I don't know if it's just the guests that are drawn to this podcast or my work, or maybe so many realtors are much more spiritual and nobody really knows about it because it is not something that we have typically talked about. And I'm glad to give voice to that. And I was very glad to give voice to that of that to you today.
I'm going to add something to that you just
Sure.
said. I think realtors are a fantastic breed. I think the majority of realtors are truly wonderful people who care about their community, who get involved. And it's such a, I, when I transitioned to real estate, I had experience in the entertainment industry in Los Angeles. And I was so surprised for the kindness compared to like cutthroat competitive environment that was the entertainment industry. The kindness that I found with realtors, it was such a pleasant surprise because you don't know, but there's a lot of people in our industry who are genuinely wanting to help other people, who want to help people that are new in the industry. It's truly fantastic. I'm so blessed. And I now, when the roles are reversed, that I've been, and we are the people who are helping the people who are just starting out in the business.
Yep,
It's awesome. I love it.
it really is.
Yeah,
Well, thank you so much. And I look forward to the
absolutely.
next time our paths cross. Thank you for being an amazing guest on today's episode.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Lisa. Bye, everybody.
Thank you so much for joining us on another absolutely amazing and inspiring episode of Lifting Others as We Rise. I hope you will take some of the things that we got out of our podcast today and think about how you could put them into action tomorrow or today. One of the things that was most striking to me, which I love, is that Matias not only has alarms all day set for his appointments, but he also sets alarms every day for mindset. So, like mindset alarms. He said that every day at 2 p.m., he has one that just says relentless, maybe be relentless. He has one in the morning that reminds him to check his calendar at 9 a.m. to make sure he's really understands what's going on with that day. And I think having reminders all day long of where you'd like to be, it's just an interruption to what's going on. So I love that. So consider maybe seeing how you could weave that into your daily action. And then the piece of advice I think that was given to him as a child from his early mentor, his dad, was don't take yourself too seriously. And that is so important in sales, in real estate, in life. Yes, the work that we do is important and making sure that we always have our client's best interest in mind, work ethically and with integrity, but have a laugh or two. We certainly have enough situations that we could certainly do that. So I hope you'll consider all of those things as takeaways from today's amazing episode. If you did enjoy today's insights and inspiration, please be sure to subscribe, hit that button to rate and leave a review. Your feedback really matters. Until our next episode, keep the positivity flowing. And remember, when we make an effort to lift up others with intention, we all rise together. This is Lisa Parenteau signing off from Lifting Others as We Rise. Take good care. Thank you for joining us on another amazing episode of Lifting Others as We Rise. I hope you make sure to follow through on today's Catalyst for Change. If you enjoyed today's insights, please be sure to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. You know your feedback really does matter. Stay connected for more uplifting conversations because remember, when we lift others up, we all rise together. So until the next episode, keep the positivity flowing and keep lifting up others around you. This is Lisa Parenteau signing off from Lifting Others as We Rise. Take good care.